When is the best time of year to visit Egypt? Should I visit Egypt during Ramadan? Is it busier to visit Egypt in the winter or in the summertime? I get asked these questions all of the time. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about when the best time to visit Egypt is, depending on the circumstances a traveler is looking for. I'm Gus with Egypt Adventures Travel. I make custom itineraries for trips to Egypt, connect travelers with local, trusted, and vetted guides, and I even lead private tours myself. Shoot me an email today, gus@egyptadventurestravel.com, and I would love to talk about your Egypt adventure. When talking about the best time of year to visit Egypt, there's a lot of different factors that a traveler needs to consider. Somebody visiting Egypt needs to think about what type of weather they would like during their trip. They need to think about what type of activities that they're going to be doing on their trip. Are they visiting Egypt in order to have a beach holiday, or are they going there to see the pyramids and all of the ancient wonders that Egypt has to offer? Travelers also need to think about special events that are going on, like Ramadan, for example, a religious holiday that is very important to all Muslims across the world. So all of these different factors are things that somebody needs to think about when deciding the time of year to visit Egypt, and I'm going to talk about all of them in today's video. The first thing I want to talk about is when the best time to visit Egypt is for weather. I personally am from Minnesota in the United States, so I don't like being in super hot temperatures. Egypt from May through September, especially in the south, in Luxor and in Aswan and the places you're going to do a Nile cruise to, it is extremely, extremely hot, especially in the summer months. Travelers can expect to have temperatures well above 100 degrees and direct sunlight for most days in the summer if visiting Egypt during that time. Rule of thumb is that the further north a traveler goes, like Cairo or Alexandria, the cooler it is and the more temperate the weather is. But the further south you go, the hotter it is, the sunnier it's going to be. So I always tell travelers, if they really like the heat, visiting in June, July, August is great because there are way fewer travelers. But if somebody's like me and they don't want to be outside touring a site when it's 95, 110 degrees outside, visiting in October through April is going to be a lot better for cooler temperatures. An important thing to note though is that Egypt does have a winter season. It gets cold in Egypt. Not cold like it does in Minneapolis where I live, but temperatures will get down to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, sometimes even the high 40s Fahrenheit at night. And oftentimes during the day in January, February, those really cold months, it might not even get up to 70 degrees. And a lot of places in Egypt, especially more budget hotels, will not have heat. So I've spent many a night at an apartment or Airbnb in Cairo, for example, with no heat, and it's 50 degrees outside, it's a concrete building, and it actually gets kind of chilly. So it's also important to think about what types of places you're going to be staying at, what the weather's like that time of year, and plan accordingly. It's also a great idea if you want to know the exact breakdown of temperatures, just Google climate in Egypt or even go city by city. Google weather in Aswan month to month, and you'll actually find charts. There's tons of data out there where you can look at the average high temperature, the average low, and compare it to where you're from to see what's the best time of year for you to visit based on the weather. So now that we've talked about weather, I want to talk about busy times to visit Egypt and less busy times. Because for some travelers, doesn't matter what the weather is, the best time for them to visit is when there are the fewest people around to get in their way at historic sites or to queue up at museums. So for travelers who really want it to be quiet when they're in Egypt, they want to go on the off season, I recommend going in the summer. Going in June is often a lot better than going in July or August weather-wise. Either way, it's going to be hot. But if you go in the summer, there will be a lot fewer tourists. There will still be tourists who are on vacation from school or who have summer holiday, but generally speaking, places like the pyramids, the museums, a Nile cruise are going to be a lot less busy in the summertime. And then conversely, visiting over main holidays like Christmas or spring break time for people in the United States, or people in the UK, like a midterm holiday. Those are going to be the busiest times when those holidays coincide with the winter time, when the weather in Egypt is very, very pleasant for traveling. And for travelers who like discounts, traveling in the summer is another great option because it's really hot, there's not as many people there, and the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities actually sometimes slashes ticket prices to get into ancient sites by like 50% in the summer to drum up tourism. And oftentimes restaurants and hotels and tour companies will drop prices to entice people to visit. Now we've talked about weather and we've talked about busier times where there's a lot of tourists and less busy times. I want to talk about special events in Egypt and what travelers should consider when picking the best time of year to go. Ramadan is the biggest holiday that happens in Egypt. Ramadan, for those who don't know, is 30 days long, and every year it comes like 10 to 12 days earlier in the calendar because it's based on the lunar calendar. So it's gonna always kind of fluctuate when Ramadan is happening, but a quick Google search of when will Ramadan be in 2023 will give you a really good estimate of when the holy month for Muslims is going to happen. During Ramadan, everything is a lot quieter in Egypt. Liquor stores and bars are closed for the entire 30 days, except for ones inside five-star hotels. And people's general pace of life is a lot slower. Tourist sites will often close 1 to 2 hours earlier. And all Muslim folks who are able to refrain from drinking and eating every day from early in the morning until sunset. So you can imagine if you're in Egypt and you have a tour guide, for example, who's Muslim, they will most likely be fasting. And so energy level's just going to be a little bit lower. People can be a little bit more irritable. So things just kind of generally have a slower pace during Ramadan. My recommendation is if a trip somebody's planning falls around the holy month of Ramadan, it's a really great idea to try to straddle both ends of the month if you can. What I mean by that is if your trip might happen toward the end of the Ramadan and you could have a few days where Ramadan is happening and then it's over and you have a few days post Ramadan in Egypt, it's a really great way to experience the festivities of that holy month. Because Cairo and everywhere around Egypt, it's very, very special, and Ramadan is a beautiful experience for people to have. So I always recommend trying to get to Egypt during Ramadan if possible, but if you can get there maybe before it begins or close to the end of it, then you get an experience of a more normal time in Egypt. And Ramadan, it's very, very festive. I equate it to what it's like for Christmas in the United States, but for even longer, even more people participate, and it's really, really special. But it's also a drawback in some ways for travelers who want to experience nightlife, or because of kind of the slower pace of life and everybody just being a little bit more tired, everything's moving a little bit more slowly during those 30 days. There are other holidays and events in Egypt as well, so I would encourage travelers who are thinking about traveling at a specific time of year, just look up what other holidays or events might be going on. There might be something that you're really interested in going to that would happen at a certain time of year that you could plan your trip around. So that's it for my quick overview on when the best time of year to visit Egypt is. As I explained in this video, it totally depends on the traveler. It depends on a traveler's preferences for weather, somebody's preferences for how busy Egypt is, how many tourists are there, how quiet it is, and then also special events that are happening like Ramadan. I'll have a blog post linked in the video description that goes over a little bit more details on this topic, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know when you traveled to Egypt, what time of year it was, and what you thought. Or if you haven't been yet, drop a comment and let me know when you're thinking about traveling to Egypt and why. I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts. And share my YouTube channel and this video or any other videos with someone you know who wants to travel to Egypt. I love reaching more people and helping out more folks with their trips. Again, I'm Gus with Egypt Adventures Travel. Thanks for watching. Until next time.